Okay, there's many ways of starting fires, and we can, come on in guys.
Okay.
This one ought to be right up your alley. Most young guys like to play with fire, and that's what we're going to do. There's many ways of starting fires, and we're going to show some ways of what to do, how to do it, and effective ways and for it to be done safely so that you don't burn the building down.
And yes, we are going to start fires in here.
Yes, we will start some fires here. We'll get some others up here. Oh, Matt, you know what we need there?
I do.
So, anytime anybody talks about starting a fire, the first thing that they think about is usually is a lighter or matches. Being able to, well, that one's we already played with in his bed. You know, being able to start a fire with a match. Being able to do that. And that all works fine and well when we're in our house, when we're, Matt just got me my, there you go.
Right there.
Can of water. So, when it comes to survival though, there is, I guess you could put a little quirk on that. There's lots of things out there. First of all, I guess before we go to survival, here's old style
Book matches.
paper book matches, just to show that it does work, and I dropped it. That's why the tin foil's down here. So those work. They are workable, brand new matches. You can spend lots of money, and you can get what it says are waterproof matches. Holding it out here so
for the
camera up top. So waterproof matches. So we can, oh, that one's going to break.
Yeah.
So
they're a bit of a flamethrower.
Pretty good. Let's do another one, but let's get it wet and see if it works. So we've got our can of water here.
They're waterproof, you know. They're
so let's
matches.
get it wet. Let's stick it in the water. Okay, you can see that I'm not cheating. I'm dumping it in there nice and deep, getting it good and wet. And it works. Pretty impressive, okay? We'll look at that a little bit more in a minute. So we can get a little bigger. These are hurricane matches. There's a lot of match there. On that, there's also, this is basically the same thing. We're going to use one of these. This is a storm match, and it is weatherproof, waterproof, and windproof. So let's do the water thing again. We don't have much wind in here, but you'll get an idea of to what it'll do. It torches out pretty good, even when it's wet. Of course, it quickly dies, and when it gets past, they die.
It's not going to burn the... Then these have a whole lot more, so they should last longer. They're stormproof matches, waterproof, windproof.
So again, works pretty well, puts out pretty good flame. Hopefully, we don't smoke it up too much in here and set off a smoke detector.
I don't think there's any smoke detectors.
Yeah, there's one back there. We'll find out. So there's the the other match that's common out there is the Strike Anywhere.
Oh, wouldn't you know I'm not going to do that one.
They don't always work. That's the point. They don't always work on a Strike Anywhere surface. It's almost too rough.
Yeah, it is.
Not going to get it to work there.
That's too smooth.
They will work if you use them on the box, okay? So they are working matches.
They're not working on it.
Worn out. I have one that's worn out.
Uh-huh.
We're gonna get to
That's
that.
what I was going to show. So here's what happens. So if you put,
We're going to do it to this one.
yes, that's
Okay.
the one. So if we take like this, these are some hurricane matches that I've had for quite a while. The problem is, okay,
The box has been,
the box is worn out, the striker is bad. Now, just to show that I really am striking it, and it is a working match, okay? So it really is there, it does work. It was a working match. But this is what happens when you carry a box of matches
they get smashed.
in a pack. They get smashed, and after a while that quits to work. Now your match is no good. But there's something worse. And
You go ahead and do the...
go ahead. So here's our scenario. We're going to take
all three of these.
all three of these. So
Book
we have
matches,
some,
regular little matches, and waterproof matches.
okay? So these are just these little guys that,
Now you're not going to be able to strike him.
well, he almost went. There we go. Okay, working matches, because I don't think we did those before. So we've got 3 boxes here of working matches.
We have these in
The
our
paper,
pack.
the strike-on box, and the waterproof matches.
These are the...
So
good.
if we have them in our pack and we're hiking
Maybe not.
along and we fall in the creek and we end up getting wet, okay, there they
I'm
go.
gonna open the box a bit.
So
You're
a
in
good soak job, okay? If you fall in the creek, you get wet. We got out in just a minute or so, so we weren't in too awfully long, but we got really wet.
Now you're cold.
Now we're cold, now we're wet, and we need to start a fire.
Trusty waterproof matches.
Stuff's coming off the box or the mat, one of the two.
It's off the box. Here's the paper matches.
Will they dry out? Can you use them once they dry out?
Sometimes.
Okay, so you wait for them to dry out, but you're soaking wet because you just fell in the creek.
Yeah.
And now you're cold.
You
But
don't have a way to...
Use them tomorrow or, you know,
Possibly.
dry out.
Tomorrow, no. Maybe a week or 2, or at least 3 or 4 days of good sunny weather.
Okay.
Well, by then you'll have warmed up if you survived.
The matches work. They're waterproof matches. The problem is your box is wet.
So you're in
So
a
just-
problem. So now we have a lighter. Everybody says, perfect solution. It works. Well, there's a problem with lighters.
You put them in your pack.
Leave them there for a little while. They lose their fuel, and they no longer work. So, and
They put out a spark. You might be able to, if you know what you're doing, to get a fire to light with using that spark.
we're going to
but-
try that in a bit. I've not actually. I was going to test it when nobody was here, but we'll just test it on front of the
I've
cameras.
never tried using these.
And see it. So, lighters are good, but there's only so much fuel, and when the fuel runs out, you're done.
Fuel also evaporates eventually.
You throw a lighter in a cigarette lighter in a glove box in a car. Leave it there for the summer and get it out. What you will have is this. You will have sparks with no fuel. It will not work because it evaporates. It all,
I bought a package of lighters, you know, not being a smoker, a package of them for emergencies,
right?
and same thing,
They,
one after
another, they don't work.
Wait some time later.
Yeah.
So, and I forgot to get out one thing. It's here someplace. I'll find it. Here it is. You've got them on your... So the solution is flint and steel. We have these we purchased years ago. You can't get them anymore, but it's the same thing. as it's the same thing this is as this is, the flint and steel. So if you can make a spark, the problem is now we have to start a fire from a spark. So, and that's that same ferrous rod that I've got here. So we have to start a fire from a spark. So then the problem comes, how do we do that? And when we do trainings, and what we want to do in the next session is we're going to go outside and we're going to practice, because what we like to do is we take these strike anywhere matches, and we'll even let you strike them on the box, because it's not about striking the match, it's about starting a fire. And we work to teach you to be able to start a fire with one match.
We're not gonna have newspaper or...
Yeah, no newspaper, no gasoline, kerosene, oil. Just, you get a knife and you get a match and something to strike it on if need be. So when you get these and you have to go out to the woods to be able to gather what you need to start a fire, suddenly it becomes more challenging. But we've learned if you can start a fire from one match, you can start a fire.
You practice using one match, you get the fire building concept down, and then when you learn how to make sparks with these things, you already have your concept of fire building down, and then you can build a fire.
Then you're able to build a successful fire. So there's...
Well, should we start at the easiest?
We should.
Yeah, let's go to the
So
easiest.
that would be this, right? In your opinion? Okay, just making sure we're on the same page. So this is...
He wants to be the sample. He wants to be the sample.
We'll light one to start with, and then we're going to have get some help up here. So this is a where'd it go? There it is. Bag of cotton. This is cotton balls and Vaseline. And we're going to actually show you how to make this in a little bit. It's really simple. But what we do is we take this cotton ball that's soaked with Vaseline, and we make...
This is the very easiest way you can light a fire with flint and steel. We carry them in our packs, but we do not use them just for every fire we happen to need. These are something you use like when you fell in the creek, or you've had a very, very heavy rainstorm and there's hardly anything that's dry. You use that.
You have to warm the Vaseline.
Yes, that's actually when we make it, we actually heat it up.
We'll demonstrate that later.
We'll show that in a few minutes here. So you want to go ahead and light that, Matt? The trick is directing your sparks to get it on there. Ouch. Thank you. That was a hot spot. I hit the hot spot. And it's because of the oil on the Vaseline. So now, let's do another demonstration. Here's our cotton ball, soaked. And actually, let's do this. Let's just take this one. You saw this one burn, so you know that it works.
Roll it up.
So we put it back in a ball, kind of like it was. We drop it in the water. And I'm not going to be able to put it out again because I got Vaseline all over my hands. By the way, the side effect is, if you need something on the lips or whatever, you've got. So we've put that in water. So we fell in the creek and we got wet. Okay. And
now he's going to fray it back out.
I'm going to fray this out. You notice it sizzles a little bit.
It's still going to burn.
But it's still going to burn. That'll burn 15, 20 minutes. So if you're tinder and we're putting it out quickly so that we don't make a lot of smoke in here.
We don't want a black ceiling.
So anyway, so that is one method of doing it. It still works even if it's wet. And if it's been raining outside and everything's wet outside, while your cotton ball is burning, it's drying out. The cotton ball and Vaseline is drying out everything, and so then it tends to make it make it so that your wood that's there is drying out, and you'll get your fire to go.
So if you take this cotton ball, we leave it just all nice and wadded up like this. You can try to your heart's content to light it. And even with a whole bunch of sparks, it's not going to light, because those sparks need that nice frayed out area. And this applies for whether you're using cedar bark or something fuzzy that's dry out of the woods, or anything. You don't want it to be nice and frayed out, because that same cotton ball,
What's the shelf life for a container of Vaseline cotton balls?
I don't know, I've probably years and
Years and
years,
years
and
and
never, I
years.
would say it'd probably,
it never goes bad.
I don't think it'd ever go bad. Here's, let me show you how we put it in our pack. I ran across some pill bottles that were pretty awesome. The caps were designed to screw on one side and clip on the other. We like pill bottles to put cotton balls in. So
I also keep like 2 of them in the end of the Strikeforce. By the way, you cannot find Strikeforce anymore. There are a few Shinsi brands. You got to be careful though, because sometimes they'll put a steel rod through it, so you're only getting a little bit of flint, and the rest is steel. We have, I don't know how many of these, but we actually have these for sale.
yeah, we got a lot
Ferris rods.
of these rods here. So
You still need a knife.
you would
Yeah.
need a, yeah.
You don't want to use the front of your knife. If your knife doesn't strike, it's because they have slightly rounded the corners. So I just took a file to it. This one didn't need it, but you make sure it has a 90 degree, and then you can.
And that's what I did to the back of my knife, was took a file to it so that I've got a square corner, and so then I'm able to maybe. There we go. This one doesn't work real well, but that's actually enough to start a fire. It's that square corner that works so well. So this is just a plain cotton ball, nothing on it.
Fuzzy.
Just a poofy cotton ball, like what's in there. It will light.
Now watch how it burns.
So you saw how quickly that's going away. So it does work. But it's the Vaseline being soaked on it.
But give me another one of those, please. I think you know where I'm going with it. No oil on it, no Vaseline.
Wring it out a little bit. There you go, wring it out good. Get it. Just so we don't make more smoke.
Okay, so I got it frayed out. It's all wet.
It isn't going to start.
But
Now,
those you saw, they're oily.
there's
so they repel the water.
still one problem here. If we're out in the woods, we only have what we've taken with us of cotton balls
You don't
with
want
Vaseline. We're not going to, if we can't go to the store and get more Vaseline and cotton balls, we're not going to be able to get any more. So we need to look to other methods as well. And this is nice, it's handy, it's helpful, it works well, but it's not, I mean, you can only pack so many. I mean, this jar is full of, it's a petroleum jelly jar, and I just took it, you know, like the, or Vaseline, whatever, petroleum jelly, and I just took it, and when I was done, I stuck them back in it, the cotton balls back in the container. So I've kept them in for, these are old here.
What I've done, because I carry very few in my pack, is sometimes I will take one of the cotton balls and then just take off a small portion of it if I know that I have some good wood or whatever, and dry tinder, and then use that to light a fire if I'm just making an easy fire instead of using a whole cotton ball. But if I know that I'm going back home in a couple hours and I can just put another one in my pack. But that's why we're going to show different ways to start fire. I think this one next.
Sure. I'm just prepping here while Matt's doing that. So what I have here actually is, they're now calling it fat wood. It's actually just pine that is off of a stump. It's really pitchy. It's pitchy wood. When we lived out west, I'd never dream of buying something like this. I'd just take my hatchet and go find me a stump and take a chunk off, make me a stick, and that was my stick. Well, I finally was running out of those, and I don't find as many out here. And so
I found one, and it was pitchy. The problem was the pitch didn't want to light in Tennessee.
But I think I've got 4 of these in my pack, this size. Just this little stick, because this will start fires for years. And if you're out in the woods and you're in a survival situation, you can be keeping your eyes open for stumps that look like they're pitchy so that you can have
You don't ever light the stick, you just shave it.
I shave it, and we'll explain more of that in a moment. So what Matt's working on is he took some this jute twine that we talked about. We talked about in the last meeting. We used
some of it to build our shelter, and then we cut it off and we stuck it in our pack to save it.
The scrap we save, and what he's doing is taking that piece of string and just unraveling it. So they've got it twisted together as 3 parts, and you just separate it out, and then you separate what you separate, and you just till you get your ball, and you fuzz it, and it works. It works well.
Would I have them come up and do light that, and then they can do this and that? Cotton ball before we move on. Have them light it.
No, let's do it all. Let's do this. We're just debating which way to go here. So we're going to show this one next.
Okay.
And then we're going to have you guys come up and do some practice and with us up here.
So he's got some little shavings. I don't know if you noticed when he was doing this, but his knife was 90 degrees to this. He wasn't carving, he was shaving it. Like that. What I'll do sometimes is after I get that, if I'm going to get a good fire going, and I have a lot of this around, then I will take off some carvings.
Like that. There you go. And you'll put those on there. So you've got the real fine shavings, the scrapings would be a better word for it. And then you've got a few, and then of course now, when we have this, when we're going to build a fire, we have this, but we've got sitting right over here, I've got some little dry sticks and twigs and maybe a little bit of grass or
everything
some leaves.
Up to an established fire
And then
point.
I've got another pile right next to that. I've got some stuff the size of my little finger as bigger stuff, and then as I've even got maybe something like this size or this size, something to get it to this. So I've gathered everything ready. It's all ready before we even make that first strike.
People make the mistake of they work and work and work, and they light their fire, and they go, I got it lit, and they run off into the woods to go gather their stuff. They come back, their fire's out. So you gather everything you need so that once you light that, you can work with that and establish that fire up to a point where you can leave that for 5, 10, 15 minutes to go gather stuff and not have it go out. So same thing with the
fat wood
pitch stick.
Pitch stick. We called it pitch. It's a little harder to light it.
I'm trying not to tear up your thing. It's not gonna do it.
There we go. So, by the way, when we get you to come up here and play with this and try it, you're going to discover Matt's making it look real easy. That's because he's practiced a lot. It's all about getting your spark directed in the right way. So what we ought to do is We need, we'll get some more shavings here. If we want to get,
This was a terrible stick.
we want to get a couple of volunteers. I don't think there's room for more than two. If you want to come up and give it a try here, so that you can see what it's like. Although we are going to go out and outside and let you get some practice as well. Nobody jumping?
I didn't know if you meant right now.
Yep, right now.
Let's go start a fire. You gonna wait?
Wait till it's outside. Don't just so big. Separate it. Make it a couple piles, Matt.
Okay.
So
wanna go
let's
on
have
this
you
side,
come back on this side just because of the cameras. That way they
I'll
can.
go around on this side.
That way the cameras can see if we've got somebody online or
'Cause
watching
we've got
later.
camera up there, kitchen the table.
So we'll let you take your pick, whether you want the Vaseline or you want the wood, or if you want to do both. And then, I mean, by the way, if we were to light this with a match, it works real easy and real quick, but of course we just proved matches are kind of unreliable. I mean, they're great. We have matches, we use them at home for starting the fire in the wood stove, but it's because it's inside setting next to the wood stove. Although Matt often uses his striker. By the way, how long these last, you can kind of see how much that's worn from what it was as a round rod. This thing is years old.
I've used this for demonstrations 3 times in the last month. And that's
And
like,
started a lot of fires.
yeah, I've started a lot of fires, had
And
a lot
it's
of kids
hardly
striking
worn.
it, not getting a fire going. They're like, strike, 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 strike.
So the trick to it is it's about the angle. With this, you put the angle at about a 45 and you tip it this way, not this way. If you tip this way, it's hard to direct your sparks. If you tip this way, you can direct your sparks.
It's like a V-plow for your...
And you push hard. You don't have to go necessarily real fast,
It's long, slow, and hard.
but you're pushing pretty hard. And of course, up here and on this pan, it makes it a little harder, but that's just so we protect the plastic tables so we don't burn the house down. So anyway, that's how it's done. And you just take that, and you can either go after the cotton ball or after the pitch.
Which one's usually easier?
Cotton ball.
The cotton ball.
That's the one I was thinking.
The cotton ball would be the easiest one. Just that easy.
Nice, okay, cool. Because I've never done that before. That's cool.
So go ahead and give it a try on the pitch. You'll find it possible but doable.
Harder.
It's all a little.
No, I think it's a
reflection.
is a reflection from the lights up above.
Strobes.
You're doing it. It just takes a little more to.
A little bit more oomph.
Also try and use the full length, so go just a little bit further down your rod, so your sparks get off the end of your rod.
This is why we say that it takes practice. Turn that just a little bit and kind of freshen up the spots there.
Oh,
There you go.
okay. That's another good thing to know. Do I get a badge for this if I get? Remember the Girl Scout and Boy Scout badges?
Uh-huh.
I want to start it, but I don't want to use up all your time with me doing it. I'm hearing some crackling. I'm getting closer, I guess.
Yeah, that crackling is the flint sparking.
Oh. I thought maybe
Those sparks you see.
You're getting a little smoke, but it's not quite. Go ahead.
I just didn't want to.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll put you outside and let you practice more. Matt, why don't you go ahead and light that and show that it can be, that it is lightable, that we didn't pull a fast one on you. Okay? So that it does work.
It does work,
We
yep,
didn't.
yep. Well, I appreciate you letting me do the easy one first.
So it takes practice. Sometimes the easier one is, Leighton, you wanted to try this or you want to do it outside? I can't hear.
He's coming.
Okay. Okay, so your choice, whether you want to go for the,
You try the cotton ball and then try the pig stick shavings.
and in case you couldn't see it hidden around the corner, we want this kind of at about a 45-degree angle,
Angled forwards.
angled forward, so as you push it,
So for the ones on the camera, it's this angle.
yeah. So you're going to want to get it right down next to it.
Wanted to see sparks first, though.
You're aiming too high over by the time the sparks hit, though.
Okay, this plastic thing, flip it that way, then you can get down further. It's kind of short and gets,
His thing, unafraid.
I found that if you get it kind of stuck up, I've got it off of the plate here just a little bit,
You
so
want
that
this hard on there.
Just set her
and then
down, right
give
down on
a
it.
downstroke. It's also the practice of being able to make that hard stroke without going like way beyond it and then messing up all your kindling. Because if you have it on a little rock out on the dirt and you knock it off, now it's down in the dust and you got to start over.
let's try and,
Matt,
Yes.
this isn't Tenasket. There's more clay here.
Yeah. Well, the last place we were at had dust around the fire ring, so.
push nice and firm on that stick with the striker.
It's not really frayed out that well, Dad.
I thought I had it out there.
More,
Let me fray it.
but you need some real pretty stuff. There's no-
What I like doing is getting a base and then fraying this up here.
It is about how you fray it, how fine you can get it, because it's those fine fibers that you're catching
Okay.
on fire.
Try and light that.
There you go.
Okay. It's all in the learning how to do it.
It's how to
And
get the
the
fiber out,
practice
and
of
it's
it.
also in how to strike it so that you can and direct that spark where you need it to be. And it does take a little bit of time and practice to be able to make it work.
Still on a cotton ball?
What's that?
Is that cotton ball?
No, that's pitch.
Okay.
So I had a pile of the pitch
You're
shavings.
almost too much this way. Bring it up a little bit. Yeah, there you go. And something else you might want to do when you're practicing with these is, I did that a lot, and that's why this one's worn out a bunch, is for a while I'd go around just practicing striking it, just getting a good air strike. Making a good hard strike in the air, obviously over a good area.
Yeah.
By the way, we are being careful. If I can
Maybe not.
throw away. My hands are slipped from the Vaseline, but we got an extinguisher setting up here just in case, so that it. So that's definitely a little harder.
It's definitely, yeah.
It's definitely a little harder with that. You've seen that it is possible to do that. And since I've not done one yet, I'm going to,
Proof you can do it.
okay. one. But you got to realize, I bought one of these like this 97 or 98, maybe it was 96, somewhere back in there was my first one. And I've been using them a long time. So I've played with it and I've got a lot of years. I have years of practice, not just a few times. Right. And so that's why I can do it and make it, so it obviously does take that. And by the way, not always, that was really good that I did it in one. Not always does that happen. Sometimes I'm in there a few more times to get it to go.
Well, it's like any other skill. Until you learn what you're doing with it.
I would suggest if you get flint and steel and stuff,
Did he get something going?
use it. The cotton
You
ball.
did the cotton ball.
Use it for starting the fire in your stove, or just instead of using your,
Yeah, if you've got a wood stove, we've actually we have one of these containers sitting next to our wood stove. We used to get newspaper, but with our paperless society now, and the paper that we use for printing does not burn well because it's got too much clay content in it.
Right.
It's different than newspaper. And so to light a fire with the garbage paper from our publishing doesn't work very well. It kind of sort of works, but it's a challenge. And so we've just gone, because cotton balls are cheap. We're looking at, I don't know, $1.99 for cotton balls and $3 or4 for Vaseline, and there's 150 cotton balls in here. Well, even if you don't break the cotton balls in two and just use a piece of one, even if that's 150 fires for, so say $8, $9, $10. I mean, that's
matches.
Yeah, if you're buying matches, you buy a box of, what are these now? I forget, but a pack like this, aren't they like $4, $5, something like that? Wow. And there's 250 in a box, but how many times do we strike one match and get our wood stove to go? It's not very often. It usually takes 2 or 3 at least if we're using paper and whatnot. So when you use the cotton ball, and sometimes I have to admit, by the way, it does work. We will cheat and use the lighter to light it in the house, in the stove, just because I guess we're being lazy, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it also saves on the...
Yeah, one thing I have noticed with the old strikeforces that we have, the amount of strike on those versus the ferro rods, if I can get that up right, I seem to notice that there's more
flame
you
out
get
of
more
these.
strike.
Yeah.
But that can be good, but that can be bad because I think it uses them a little faster.
Yeah.
They're not as hard.
Yeah, it's a little different material. This is by the way, this rod is the exact same diameter.
It's 1/2 inch.
Is what's on here. But it's obviously more than twice as long.
Does it have a sheath? The
This?
black one, does it come with a sheath?
No, it doesn't. They come just like this. It's like a little key ring on it, and Matthias has a turnaround there.
It has like
He got a Leatherman case because we always carry Leatherman, and he got a big case. And
Put that right there.
there was a pocket there, and it works. Turn around so they can see it better. So he's got that. He's got it. This is a pin and also a deal for if you have to break glass for emergencies, and his Leatherman and
extra bits for my Leatherman and stuff.
so and these we've got them. They're available. I've got a bunch of them here. And in all honesty, at the price I sell them, and I'll tell you that in a moment, we do make a tiny bit of money on it, but with everything else that we give away with it and whatnot, it's not a profit maker for us as far as we're not getting rich off of it. We sell them for $10 is what we sell them for. We just made it
Which we think is
easy.
pretty practicable because the orange striker some of you saw earlier that Mom was using, that's $5 from Walmart, and they're like
Way
a
little.
Yeah, they're like a 16-inch rod.
You still have that in your pocket, dear? Can you throw it at us? So we can,
Just throw it to me.
there it is.
Just throw it.
I didn't need your wood. So here's the little striker,
So $5 versus give them 10.
$10.
That's a lot of striker difference. So
So, and this does, I mean, this works, and it has a nice little scraper thing for
something else.
for getting for striking. So when you compare it that way, this is a whole lot more cost effective, and this will last a lot
The
longer.
file we carry in our pack. Works too.
Now, is that just a regular
That's just
This is a
a,
steel.
little,
This is a file for metal that we carry for our hatchets, axes, whatever.
what
Okay.
about the knives you're gonna use?
The knives, we'll cover that
we talked about the knives.
tomorrow.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about the knives earlier. We're going to cover more on that tomorrow with when we talk about sharpening and whatnot. But the one thing we did do is like Matt's file there, like on the back of this knife, I actually filed it flat because it was kind of nicely shaped so that it wasn't rough or sharp. And it's still not sharp, but it is kind of flat. And I did that so that as I use this, as I scrape it, it gives me that edge to be able to do that. The point with the file, I mean, you could use a knife blade. That'll do it too, but you're going to dull your knife. So we use the one thing I like about these old guys that we've had, the one thing I do like is the little striker that comes with it. Same way with the little Walmart special. This is great for, well, it's like for Mama sticking it in her pocket. It's little. The string's a little longer. It makes it a little easier. It gives you, but what I don't like about it, and it takes a little practice with this short lanyard, I guess you'd say.
The thing is, you don't really need it long because your spark distance is from here. You give it a hard, fast push. For me, I do it fast.
Yes.
You can do it slowly, but then you're going to want to stop when you make it right here, or else you're going to hit your stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, if you're striking and you push and you hit and you shove things away, you just
So it's
push
that
it all the
practice
way.
of being able to
be able to go to the right spot, to push those sparks to the right place. So that's several little techniques. There are other methods for starting fire. There you go. Get out your. So there is.
Maybe I'll just make a fire with it. I already got tinder here. So.
You got tinder there? Okay. Let's do another method here. Just
This is one I would suggest you wait on trying until you are efficient at strike forces.
the flint this way with the cotton ball, as you've seen, is the easiest method. Where Matt's going is don't do too large. We don't want too big of a fire and you don't want to waste your nice tinder there.
Okay. So what this is the true meaning of flint and steel. I actually carry one right here on my key ring because you can find just about all over the place a flinty rock. We have our piece of steel. Y'all can see that? So what we have, you can use charred like jean fabric. Oh, this one doesn't, it just pulls off.
So let me get mine out so we can show the difference.
So it's jean fabric that this little container right here, you put it in the cut up jean fabric in it.
Mine's
and
cut
you,
up and
you put it in your
not burnt yet.
fire. You see the hole here in the side of the container for the camera up there. There's a hole in the lid as well, so we put this in here. We line up that hole and we put it in our fire, and we let it burn till the fire quits coming out of this hole. It burns it in a vacuum so that we still have something left instead of just being crumbling.
So it's kind of charcoal.
Yeah,
So it's called char cloth.
char cloth, not charcoal. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hold that down under, I think I want it on this side, under our flinty rock, and I can pretty much guarantee you will probably end up bloodying your knuckles the first 100 times you do this. So the goal is I'm getting spark and I'm trying to throw them down into that cloth without tearing up the cloth. And you can see when it's there because it'll start glowing red.
Stick your cloth out just a little further. This takes a lot more work. This is a lot more difficult.
Are you just using one piece of cloth in your little?
Yes,
pan?
he's using one little piece of cloth with that rock, with the steel hitting that rock to make a spark.
Seems like there's more sparks up here than there's down there. And it is way harder.
Sometimes you can get them to go right off, but you don't get flame with this initially. All you get is a little glowing ember on that char cloth. And then once you get that glowing ember, you have to keep blowing on it until you get a larger ember. And then you go to the tinder that he's got out here.
This rock they put in here is terrible rock.
Is
It
it?
chips way more than it strikes.
I hear,
Yeah.
you want mine?
You got yours on you?
It's probably right here.
I collect my own, but this one, this pack I've actually not used, and also
Okay.
something else, you can carry char cloth and strike it with your strikeforce.
Try that one.
Thank you. This is one that I got.
I'm going to get rid of our water here.
Okay.
Does that one work?
Plenty of sparks, I just got to get it to direct the sparks. And I've hit my thumb about 3 times.
This takes a lot of perseverance.
Believe me, if you're cold, by the time you get your fire going, you will be warm.
Isn't there a scripture about that? He who cuts his own wood is warm twice or something?
I think that's a problem, but I don't know that it's in the Bible.
Oh, you almost had it.
I'm going to try this one.
Okay, we're going to leave you to trying on that, and while you're doing that, for the sake of time, what I'm going to do is
This one was working better.
start getting ready to do the... By the way, first time I did this, I have to tell on myself, I got out Mama's kettle, and my wife that is, and I took the Vaseline and I scooped it out of the container and I put it in the kettle with one of her kitchen spoons, and I put it on the stove and heated it up, and I put my cotton balls in it and got it all heated up into a liquid. And once I had it to a liquid, then I added my cotton balls, which is what we're going to do here. And I stirred them up and I let it cool down. And once it was cooled down, I took them out and I stuffed them back into bottles and into my container, and I was like, all right. And I went over to the kitchen sink to clean up my mess. And I scrubbed, and I scrubbed. And pretty soon it's like, Melanie, do you know any way of getting Vaseline out of the kettle? Because the soap doesn't seem to be cutting it. And it took me hours to clean her kettle up and her spoon up. And so we have found that the way to do this is a tin can and not use the kettle, because it works, it's okay. It's just a lot of hard work to clean it up. So if you got a lot of time and nothing else to do and you like scrubbing dishes, I guess you can use the kettle. But I wouldn't recommend it.
What about that soap that they cleaned up those birds that had gotten oil on?
Dawn dish soap cuts grease pretty good, but it's pretty oily. I mean, it works. It's just so much easier to use this tin can. And when I'm done, I just take a paper towel and wipe it out a little bit and say, yep, good enough. And it either gets thrown away or is saved for another time or used for something else that doesn't matter. And I'm just using a paint stick to get it out of here, so when I'm done with this, I can throw the paint stick in the garbage and not worry about not having to clean any. It just makes it easy.
So what I'm going to do here, I have done this a lot, but I've not done it for a while, and it's not wanting to light. I think part of it is in the type of rock. This rock is chipping off really, really fast. So what I'm going to do, this is the tinder, so I'm going to use this to give it its spark.
And it's still harder than.
There we go. So we got a little red. How many of you can see that little red spot? No. Okay. We're going to put it in the middle of our tinder bundle. This is an awful small one for this.
Might have to try to get a bigger spark. So he puts the char cloth in the deal. See the smoke starting to come?
Yep.
He's blowing that ember.
Not too hard.
He's working that ember to get it a little more, a little more. There it goes. It's almost ready. And there we go. So that's the object, that's the goal.
And it can be done with this, it's just harder. And there is one harder method beyond this, and that is bow and drill or
A spindle. Yep.
That is the next step.
And that gets more complicated yet. Doable. The difference is, and the benefits are, so the bow and drill, if you know what you're doing, you can take a vine, or you can use your hands and you can find the right wood. If you've got a knife, you
If
can,
it's dry.
or if it's dry,
It has to be dry.
got to find some dry wood to do it. You can find things out there in the woods, build it and do it, and you don't have to have any other materials, though it takes a lot and a lot and a lot of practice. I have managed to, why are you trying to start it again? You're making a lot of smoke. So I have, Matt, didn't set off the smoke detector yet.
It still
So-
had spark in it, so I was relighting it.
Okay. Yeah, there's still an ember there. So the idea
Still
is, the concept is with that, and my thinking is, if you've got the time to work for that, it's definitely a good thing. If you can just get this, but the problem is, if you don't have it with you, and this is what you know, now you've got a problem.
And by
'Cause-
the way, if you have a steel knife, that striker you saw in here, you can use your knife with the... Yeah.
Not getting a
Let me use this right.
That is, we've not perfected that as much. We've not taken the time to work with that method as much, especially I haven't. Matt's taken an interest in it and worked with it some. Do a strike, down, a
Yeah.
longer strike that way.
Yeah, now it's not. This
Yes.
one's not wanting to strike
Nope.
it.
It
Should be
takes a
able to
lot
do
of
it with a
practice, and it takes the right steel to do it.
And this is one,
So-
not one I've practiced very much.
My solution for having it, I carry one of these in the pickup. I carry one in my pack. I carry one in our fifth wheel.
Carry one on my belt.
There's one in my dresser drawer at home. So, and it's in my mind, if I have to leave from whatever point, hopefully I will have one nearby. I carry 2 cotton balls in the end of this because it's got a little hollow spot there. It came with a little fire starter thing. I was never impressed with it. Anyway, so I got two in there. So if I have nothing but this, but if I've got this, I always carry a pocket knife with me. And so, or a Leatherman or both. A lot of times I don't always have a sheath knife. A lot of times I do, but not always. But I've got this. I can use it to make my scrapings.
Anything will do. But
And
if
I
you're
might
gonna
have to
prepare,
go looking for a while to find a stick if I didn't take one with me.
Yeah.
And out here it's
Well,
going to be
well, like with
harder.
that, the 3 weeks ago when we did the, I was doing a youth meetings and teaching them this, and when we did the shelter building, they had to build their fire, and we didn't use pick sticks, we didn't use cotton balls. There were cedar trees, and we used the bark, the dry bark off cedar trees, and it kind of looks like this. In fact, I think this might be cedar bark. And it works. Okay, so this stuff right here that I just used, that I carry in here, if you were to get that, this would be, if you got cedar bark off of a tree or palm trees, they have a fuzzy, if you live in palmland. So you can light a fire that way as well. And it's not putting out smoke.
No. Now you got it over
on the
there.
table.
So, okay. So what I've done, and I'm going to, because I didn't get the last batch that I did, demonstration, I didn't put enough Vaseline in, so those cotton balls I just dumped in there have already seen a little bit of Vaseline. We're going to give them some more just so that we finish them up, because we want to make them totally usable. It's roughly about, I have found about half a bag of cotton balls
Of the 150s
of the 150 count to one of the large containers of the Vaseline. Approximately the right right proportions to get it to come out.
something like that. The striker on the thing died, so we used a striker.
Okay. So we're gonna, oh, and I should have waited to put those cotton balls in there, melded that Vaseline first, but it'll work.
What's that thing that's in Kansas?
What?
That thing you have a stove?
This is a camp stove. So I'm using a camp stove to, you know what, we may not be able to do this in here. This thing's really smoking today.
It's because you got it on the outside.
Are those welding gloves you're using?
No.
These are insulated leather gloves. These I actually carry in my pack. I don't trust it because it's too teeter-tottery.
Yeah. It's kind of high up here with that. And I goofed. I threw my cotton balls in. I wasn't thinking about it. What I always do is get my Vaseline melted first, completely. Huh? Yeah. I get the Vaseline melted, then I take it off the heat and add the cotton balls. And I should have done that. We may have to take this mess outside. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You want to hang on to it? Or are you burning your fingers?
No, I wasn't burning my fingers. He just slipped off because I wasn't holding it tight enough.
Yeah.
Because if you turn it, it comes out. Okay, stop moving it for a second. I'm going to search this.
Is that kind of toxic to smell that?
Probably a little.
About everything is.
I mean, it is petroleum.
I hope it'll blow out. It's getting strong.
Okay, I think,
You've got it melted, so now you can mix it in.
yeah. Okay, why don't you bring that down lower? And I know we can't see, okay, there we go.
So he's just mixing those cotton balls in, trying to get the Vaseline that was at the bottom mixed up over the top of them, squished into it all.
Yeah, I splashed.
Gotta be careful though when you're making these, because if you splash it out,
Onto the stove.
we're gonna have a
yep,
nice fireball.
It will burn. And actually, I've gotten so if I make these up when we're in need, I actually use the camp stove, and I usually take it outside just so that when I'm doing it, if something goes amiss, I don't have any issues for burning the house down. I think we could add a couple more cotton balls in there, Matt.
Yeah.
Should you use up all the liquefied?
Yeah, that's kind of how I base it is you want it, I'm adding more cotton
You
balls.
want just squishy cotton balls, no liquid at the bottom when you're done. But you don't want them partially dry. You want them to be nice and soaked so that when they cool off, they will be gelled.
Good quality. We won't advertise whose paint stick that was. What company. Of course, I guess it wasn't made for stirring cotton balls. There we go. That worked. That worked pretty good. I think we've pretty much got, you want to grab one? So, you can see the cotton balls. We just let them cool.
See, they're still, but
You can,
after
once
they
that
cool
cools,
off,
let me move our can out of the way.
so we don't light the whole thing
So
on
we
fire. Just remember not to throw matches in there.
Yeah. We did that because the same can we were, had water in it. We were throwing our matches in it. So the last time we were doing a demonstration, I lit a match and I went to throw it in the can.
I threw it and I missed the
Oh, yeah.
can. And as it hits the table, I'm like, that's cotton balls, not water. So even when it's hot, still works great.
So that's why, and there's a couple of different methods. I have had people tell me that one method
Well, what you
is,
were actually told to do, but
when I
you
was
missed
originally
it.
told, was take your finger, rub it in some Vaseline, rub a little Vaseline on your cotton ball,
And then light your cotton
and
ball.
then light your cotton ball.
He thought soak the cotton ball, so he's like, how would I do that? Oh yeah, heat it up, mix it in.
So that was what I thought of. So if you just rub a little Vaseline on the cotton ball, it works, and it burns for 2-3 minutes, something like that.
I don't. You got
Here,
any Vaseline?
I got more Vaseline.
Because that's cotton balls. Well, just thank you. Get our fingers nice and fireable.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Now fluff it up a little bit.
There
You
you
gonna do
go.
it?
Good.
So
But watch it shrink.
it does much better than just a straight cotton ball by itself. you know, if it had been just the cotton ball by itself, it would have already been pretty much done. So it is doing better, and I'm going to put it out because we're getting a lot of black smoke. So it does a little better with a little Vaseline on it, but we found that when you completely soak the cotton balls,
There.
and they're still warm so it comes out, obviously it's not hot and
Once they're cold, we get a nice thick, squishy. If anybody want to feel them, you can.
well, they can feel them. We'll take them out and in the next session. So there's some basic fire starting things, some different methods, what works, what doesn't work. Again, we're actually right at about our time, just slightly over. So what we're saying is, I guess to summarize it all, don't waste your money on, I specifically bought these great big monster matches, stormproof things. I bought these for demonstration purposes. I paid $12 for this box of matches.
This box that went swimming earlier, still.
So, you know, you pay a lot for that kind of stuff. They're overrated. I
Oh,
bought,
there's one thing we never went over.
what was that? These boxes that we got wet, 4 boxes was about it was around $8 for 4 of these.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money that doesn't
And let it again.
there's another myth out there. Is that what you're thinking of?
For.
So you take a match like this, and one of you strike anywhere matches, and you dip it in wax, hot wax. And they say that is a way of fireproofing it, and you can do it yourself.
Waterproofing.
Or waterproofing it. Yeah, well, it fireproofs it too. Because you can't strike that match, it will not light. You can dip it and it looks all pretty. You try lighting that match. You can work and work and work, and
It won't
sometimes you'll get it to light. Usually you wear out the striker on the side of the big, you'll wear this out before you'll get that one match to strike.
Yeah. Something that I realized we didn't cover, and that I've seen, because what I was actually doing with youth meetings is I would give them 3 matches. I'd show them how to strike it on a rock, which we don't have anything suitable. This is too rough, so it just eats it up. But how to strike them on a rock that's suitable, not using the box or whatever. I give them 3, they practice with those. I give them 1 match, they go and gather all their materials and light their fire. So they have their one precious match, and they're walking around with their 1 match, and they're getting all their stuff, and they go over there and they strike it on the rock and they get it to light. Well, their problem is, whoops, I've got it upside down. They strike it on their rock, okay, so say the rock's like this. They strike it on their rock, then they go to put it in their fire, and it burns their fingers because they're holding it like this. Then they freak out and drop their match. It goes out. Now they don't have a fire. They don't have a match. It normally goes out when it goes on the ground.
Blister on the finger.
They have a blister on their finger. So the proper way to do it is, 1, you don't want to strike it like that, where you just
Where it breaks
push.
it and throws it away.
You want to get it down on an angle, strike it like that. Especially that is very necessary when you're doing it on a rock, because if you just strike it on the white, here it'll light. But when you're out on doing it on a rock, oh, you're trying to strike it with the strike from the one that doesn't have any fuel. If you try and strike it on a rock and you're doing it just on the white, it won't light. So you've got to have that angle, and then put your finger down here. They're afraid to put their finger on here. My finger's long gone before that's even fully lit. So don't hold it wrong, and have a respect for fire, but not a fear for fire.
Right.
You got wind, put it down in your little tinder bundle or whatever you've got.
Can Pathfinders get an honor in that?
I don't know. I was in Pathfinders so many years ago, but yeah, I couldn't tell you. By the way, obviously, you know how quickly I can light a cotton ball with flint and whatnot. I've fluffed it out there, and I've been...
And if you watch a bunch of TV shows on fun ways to start fires, I can pretty much guarantee they won't work.
So, obviously that lighter without any fuel is pretty worthless. I really was. I wanted to see if it would work. I haven't tested that to see, but I had a hunch it would not work. It's not enough spark directed in the right direction in the right way.
Yeah. My fingers are so slippery I can't strike it.
All Vaseline we've been playing in because of doing this. You get Vaseline on your hands. And so anyway, that's probably the basics. We're going to take a break for a few minutes, and then what we're going to do, we're going to go outside. There is a fire pit downstairs just below this deck that's out here, and we'll go out there for those that want to. We'll take the cotton balls, we'll take some pitch sticks, and by the way, if you want, I brought plenty of pitch sticks. If you want, you can take a pitch stick with you.
Take some veggie legs and roast them.
What's that?
Take some veggie legs and roast them.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, you can get some practice if you want to practice with some of this, lighting it. We'll go out there, and what we'll do is while you're practicing, Matt and I can give you pointers and tips of what to do, things we've found, how to make it work, and I've been playing with it for years. I've spent a long time teaching Matt through the years, but then we actually went out, and he and a friend of his, we went out and we spent 4 days together, and this is all we did all day long, was practice fires, practice with collecting water, building shelters, and about the only thing we did to make our lives easier is we did we took our packs with us, and we took some food with us, so we didn't have to go wild gleaning for our food.
We ate well.
We ate well, very well. Matt's a good cook, even in the woods. So let's have a prayer to close, and then we'll take our break.
Our dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and thank you for the sunshine after the rain, and help us to be able to learn all these things and remember them, and be with your honest in heart, and be with the people that are online watching this, and help them to be able to fully comprehend everything, that they will be able to practice it, and that everyone will be able to be efficient at lighting these fires to help preserve their lives, like we learned last night of the difference between a survivalist and a prepper. And help us to be more like you each day. In Jesus' name, amen.